When you're a child, there's some things you just take for granted. You don't question the origins or how something works. Well, even as an adult, I just accepted that the Venom symbiote came from another planet and that's all there is. However, comic writer Donny Cates taught us about 3 years ago that Venom does have an origin, and his name is Knull. And he's kind of fucking ugly. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we're giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey guys, welcome to the Extreme channel. I am so excited about this custom 1/4 scale Knull on Throne statue that we're looking at today. So if you're unfamiliar who Knull is, he's the biggest talk in Marvel right now, or arguably one of the biggest talks. As I said in the intro, he was created by writer Donny Cates about 3 years ago, and he is the god of the symbiotes. He's the origin of Venom and Carnage and Scream. And if you're unfamiliar with what's going on, they've had an absolute Carnage event where pretty much everybody and their mom in the Marvel world was venomized or symbioted. Is that a word? Symbioted? And it was all in preparation for this comic series called King in Black. And that is the arrival of Knull on planet Earth. Now, I haven't read them all, and I have the omnibus coming in 2022. But he is such a badass character. He was around before the Celestials or the gods created the universe, and he killed most of those with this fantastic sword. And he actually controlled all the symbiotes at one time. And then eventually they branched off and became like Venom and Carnage and some of the other ones, because he was encased in a planet made of symbiotes that was kind of a cage for him. But as I said, recently he actually came to Earth. In the comics, not in real life. Let me give you an idea of his power. The Avengers and the X-Men together could not stop him. So spoiler alert, if you haven't read King in Black, they called on their secret weapon Sentry, who they figured would be able to destroy him, and he just ripped Sentry in half in one motion. So arguably one of the most powerful characters out there, and there's a lot more to know. And if you want to check out, you can check out in Cosmic Universe, King in Black, Absolute Carnage. But here I have him brought to life in a 3-dimensional statue, and this is sitting in a throne. If you're new to the channel, I love throne statues. Recently, actually within the last week or so, I reviewed this Predator on Throne. It's about one of 30 throne statues I have. Now, I also have another custom Knull statue on order. I talked about it in this episode of Extreme Expos, so make sure to go check it out. And when that arrives, I'll do an in-depth review on that, so make sure you've not only liked this video, but you've subscribed to the channel and you've hit that bell notification if you want to see it. But today we're going to focus on this guy. So custom means it's a private unlicensed commission. Marvel did not approve this. Now I gotta tell you, whenever you get a beautiful piece of art like this in person, it usually looks better than it did in pictures or photos. Once in a while you get a statue that's like 10 times better. This is one of those statues. It's pretty phenomenal. I wanted to get it because I really love Knull and I really love throne statues. So it was kind of a no-brainer, especially since I have so many symbiote related pieces right behind me, because that's where I'm gonna display him for now. I'm going to put him and all the Venomized characters all around him, including Venom and Carnage, but stuff like Venomized Mary Jane, Venomized Hulk, Venomized Deadpool, Venomized Gwen, Venomized Black Cat. I could go on forever, baby. But let's dive into this guy, and we're going to start out with concept of this piece, which is pretty damn cool, because this is directly from actually an art cover. Check out this picture right here. This is where they actually got it from, and this is actually the CGC slab comic that I have. Now, before I forget, they did also include an art print, which is pretty neat. So what you have here is he is sitting on a throne of symbiotes because that's what he does. That's what he controls. He's kind of the hive mind, so to say, of most of them. Like I said, Eddie Brock and Carnage and some other ones were ones that kind of had an offshoot and were no longer controlled by him. But this is totally made up of the black tendril symbiote aspect we're used to seeing. You see some of the symbiote heads coming out. You remember seeing this in a lot of the Venom comics or even some of the Venom movies, but these are a little bit different. These are ones controlled by him. He is a god. He is sitting there, and I know he looks skinny and lanky, but trust me, he is not someone to be trifled with. Sitting there with his sword, which has multiple different names, which, like I said, he's killed Celestials with, and he's actually had to reforge it. So I love that they included that classic aspect of him. And as you move up, he's just sitting there very evil, very proud, because this guy is evil incarnate. He believes in death more than Thanos. He wants to kill worlds. That's what he does. He loves void. He loves just emptiness. He loves space. He loves nothingness. And that's what makes him happy. So they captured the evil aspect of him sitting on the throne. There are no dead enemies on this throne, which typically you see in a lot of throne statues. So I like the fact that it's different. And I can't wait to see what he's going to look like with my collection, because I think they did a fantastic job on the concept. I think it's a 5 out of 5. They matched the source material. looks even better in real life. And I'm going to eventually put this with my throne display at my home once I get that new Knull to replace him on the shelf behind me. Now we'll talk about design. He was a pretty tough one to assemble. I did have some broken pieces, unfortunately, but let's start with the unboxing and assembly. One incredibly heavy and big box, and then a smaller box. So both of them had your standard black custom foam. The smaller box here had 2 layers to it, and while everything was packed really well, that didn't stop from some breakages. So here you see one of the portraits, some of the symbiote pieces coming out, and that's what was broken. Then here's the second layer in that smaller box. Again, another portrait and more of those symbiote heads. Now the bigger box was an art box, so you had the tribute to Venom here, and then of course the King in Black series. And this was incredibly heavy and big, so I was worried about broken parts in this, but there weren't. So the top layer, it was kind of a trifold layer. So the throne was in all 3 layers, and you had to keep peeling back and more pieces, as you can see. Quite a few of the tendrils and additional add-ons besides the throne and Knull himself. You can see the sword right there. And then the final layer was just the third portrait and the base. Alright, you have a few different display options. They are all in the portrait. And initially, I wasn't really feeling any of them. I didn't think I'd have a favorite. And I still don't have a single favorite, but I love them all actually. So first right here is the one where he's baring his teeth. Very evil, sinister. He's looking straight forward. Then you have the one with the open mouth that's kind of like the art print I showed you, and a venomized tongue. And keep in mind, we shouldn't be calling it Venom because it actually originated with him. Kind of a side note too, the reason why he called him Venom, because when he thinks his symbiotes latch on to other people, that's a poison, that's the venom affecting his symbiotes. And then the last portrait is from, I believe this is from the cover, but it's turned a little bit to the side, and he's actually looking at the symbiote he has in his hand. So here's the breakages I was telling you about. One of them came like this, and the other one happened during assembly. So I'll eventually have to fix that. And that was some of the assembly problems. Now, whenever you ship statues that are made of polystone and resin and other materials, depending on temperature and things of that nature, not always in the same construct that they were shipped. So it just wouldn't properly fit in, and that's what ended up breaking it, which is what it is. Thankfully, nothing of vital importance was broken. Really wish I had some extra portrait displays to display those other portraits, because like I said, I love them all. But let's get the dimensions on this giant. So 1/4 scale, meaning a real life version will be 4 times larger. He is over 28 inches tall. The widest point with the tendrils is about 25 inches. Now you could remove those technically, but some of them will leave pretty nasty keyholes and pinholes. And the deepest part is about 19 inches. So he does take up a lot of room, but I like that. I think this display commands a lot of room because he is a god, he is a centerpiece. He did an okay job hiding where some of the pieces fit in. It doesn't look horrible, it doesn't look great. Overall, I like the portrait displays. I would have liked some switch outs on the hands, but I'm okay without any because I think this looks fantastic. The design wasn't 100% good, but there's a lot going on here, so I give them a lot of props. simply for the fact that they tried to go so elaborate and they pulled it off. So I'm going to give them a 4 out of 5 on the design, despite some of the breakages and no other additional display options. Paint and sculpt is really good on this. Now, obviously it's a lot of black, but I think they did a nice job varying the color. Check it out. Now, I normally like to give you guys kind of a 360 on the paint and sculpt, but the lighting under here is really good, and the back of the chair is very much similar to what we have going on here. So this is a lot of interlacing of that symbiote tendrils, and they've mixed a lot of blue within the black and different shades of gray, and I think that's what really helps variate the colors on the statue. So that's kind of essentially what you have in the entire base, whether it's part of the permanent base here or some of the additional pieces that they've added. And you see some of those seam lines there. But I like it. I think that blue and gray really makes it pop, and I think they just did a really nice job with the coloring on it, especially since Knull's suit is black. Now on Knull himself, you see some factory dust. I still need to dust this off, but it's kind of this matte black color. And what's interesting is his boots, his little dress, I don't know why they always wear dresses, his pants, all kind of that same color, but it doesn't look too black. You have a few variations on there, like the metal tip on his shoes. Man, you really see how much dust is on this from the lighting here. It's really bothering me. So his knee pads have kind of a darker gray. And same thing with his armor right here, whether it's his shoulder pads or the chest plate, and has a classic, this is kind of the Knull symbol, you know, a variation of Venom. So it really, you know, starts to get into philosophical questions like, well, I thought that Venom's spider symbol was because he was attached to Peter Parker, or how did that work? But it's kind of like a scorpion with the, so to say, spider legs. But it's also kind of a duller red color, which the red color on the heads is quite a bit brighter. And they have this protruding target, kind of the classic symbol of his symbiotes, whether it's the dragon symbiotes or just the normal ones. I like the teeth on these as well, from a graying black to a white, jagged and all over the place. And each one is different, which I think is cool. The sword looks great, an even darker red, and a lot of that black in it really helps, and it almost looks like it's made out of symbiotes as well, even though I don't think it is in the storyline. I'd have to go back and check that. He has these bony protruding fingers that really turn into nails, and it's a mix of white and gray on those colors. I think they did a really nice job. And again, very skinny guy, kind of this plated armor coming up the left and right, which makes you wonder why he has to wear armor, but why did Thanos too, I guess? But some of the stars of this are the portraits. So the hair looks nice. Dirty blonde hair, the strands look good. Paint's really clean on this. Portrait looks immaculate in my opinion. So obviously the tongue, the portrait here, the teeth look nice with the really dark purple red gums. The tongue is more of a purple than a red, but I kind of like that. Look how clean the paint is where it meets the hairline. The expression, the sculpt on this is phenomenal. It takes away that, you know, the boniness of him, and that's what the character looks like. He looks kind of corny in the characters despite how badass he is, or corny in the comics. But they did a really nice job. Beady red eyes with kind of that dark shading around there. Just an evil sneer. And here's another one of the portraits. So more of a sinister smile, I guess you could say, on this one. A lot of the same comments. Has a braid in the hair, kind of a cool addition there. Some added white. And again, I think the teeth and the gums look great. The shading on the gray. They did a really, really nice job on that. Let me grab the last portrait here for you guys. So here's this one. Again, he just looks pissed. And this is where he's actually looking at the symbiote in his hand here. The way the lips curl around looks great. And again, he has his eyes have that circular symbol in them. So just really nice job on the portraits here. The statue altogether, the paint and sculpt is really, really solid. I think they made him look more badass than he does in the comics, personally. Very impressed. All right, paint. So like I said, it looks really good the way they were able to get these subtle different colors of black or mix in some of the blues. And then the paint around Knull himself is very clean, well done. I think it's a solid 4 out of 5. I mean, I'm really impressed with it. I might even say a weak 5 out of 5. The sculpt looks phenomenal. You know, when I was putting it together, the pieces didn't look as good as it does as a whole. But I'm going to give the sculpt a same score, a very strong 4 out of 5, possibly a weak 5 out of 5. I like this a lot more than I thought I would. And don't get me wrong, I plan to like it a lot, but he may be one of my top favorite symbiote-related statues. Definitely in the top 5 for sure. So is he worth it? Well, they only made 40 of these, so I absolutely love that. And Knull's going to get more and more popular, and they may even introduce him in the MCU one day. So I think that holds a lot of value. Now, price was $1,200 plus shipping was, I think, near $500, $400 or $500. It was quite a bit. So you're $1,600, $1,700 all in for this piece, which is a lot of money for a 1/4 scale statue. However, one could argue this is as big as 2 or 3 1/4 scale statues put together. While Knull's popularity isn't as big as I think it will be, I think the value on this is pretty strong. And honestly, I'm gonna give it the same score that I gave the other ones, a strong 4 out of 5, possibly a 5 out of 5. If Knull's popularity gains even more, which I think it will, because to me, he's kind of the new Thanos. Thanos was the huge villain for me growing up. Now as an adult, I think Knull is taking that spot. Once he catches on, I think this will be invaluable. So does this have the X factor? Kind of a stupid question. X factor is how badass is this? Do I really love it? Is it one of my top statues? And I know I have a lot of top statues, but this is a 5 out of 5 statue, I think, overall. It's very impressive. I cannot wait to see what he looks like behind there. If you want to see what it looks like, make sure to check out the Extreme Channel social media sites. There's a link in the description below. I post exclusive content on there. But very excited to have this guy in my collection. I'm so glad I got him. Wow, he's really, really impressive. I actually had a few days to actually sit and think about it and leave him here on the table and look at him. And he gets more and more impressive every single time I look at him. So stoked to have this. So let me know what you think of him. Had you heard of Knull? If not, are you gonna check out some of the King in Black stuff? Throw that down in the comments below because that could win you a statue. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Drop me a like on the way out. It really helps the channel. And if you want to see future stuff like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you next time. Make sure to take care of yourself. But in the meantime, check out some of these other videos. Peace. That was stupid.